Okay, so we are going to resume from where we left off last time,
Wait, wait.
which is learning the halachas of Habakkuk's Ner Shabbos. We can do a screen share. Start with that. And we left off in the Piskei Teshuvos over here in Oz Zion. Pick it up from here. Kedushas HaNeiros VaPsilos VaHashemen. So the Mishnah Berurah discussed the case that you're not allowed to light something from the Shabbos candle, a weekday candle, or the like from the Shabbos candle, because it's considered bizui mitzvah, which means disgracing the mitzvah. And the custom is to be stringent with this, even if your intention is to light another candle from Shabbos. All right, that's what we're saying over here from the one that was lit. So certainly we see from this that it is prohibited to use these candles themselves for a weekday type of activity. For example, let's say you're going to use a Shabbos candle that was lit to light like a cigar or something. Use it for a stove, whatever it is, a barbecue grill. Right? That would in fact be a problem, and that would be considered bizui mitzvah, a disgrace to the mitzvah. So that is important to point out over here. All right. Sarachian, one should look into if it's even permissible to light a yurtzeit candle from a Shabbos candle. In this pressing situation, there's who to rely upon. Then he says you should know, even though it's permissible to get pleasure from the light of the candle in order to do all of your needs for the house. Nevertheless, if you're going to transfer from one place to another, that would be a problem. So we're going to learn about this more. It's going to be a problem even transferring it from one place to another. And we'll touch upon that more. Right? Now, after Shabbos, you could use them. Let's say, for example, the wick didn't light, the oil didn't light. You could actually reuse that. Right? You could even use that for anything, even if they extinguished while they were lit for the Suda during the Shabbos meal, whatever it is. You could even throw them out. This would be unlike the Hanukkah candles, where if there were leftovers, then it would be prohibited to benefit from that. This is different. However, even so, we are holy people, and we do not throw used wicks and the like into the garbage, even if they were used for Shabbos. Anything that we made a bracha on for a mitzvah, we don't do that. Rather, we throw them out in a respectable way, or we hide them, we burn them in a type of like bonfire, or when we burn chametz or on Lag BaOmer. You could also light the Motzei Shabbos after Shabbos. So this is a story with the used oils and wicks and what to do with them over there. The Teres Zakein and Eli Rabba, they quote from the Sefer Panach Raza, who says that basically it should be specially designated for Shabbos, what we're lighting from. Okay. Now the last point that he says on this is we saw that according to the Eli Rabba, he had a leniency for a woman who was poor if she forgot to light the Shabbos candles. So according to the Eli Rabba, then she doesn't need to add another candle. Rather, she could add a little bit of oil, uh, or she could or she could hold on 1 minute. Sorry about that. Okay. So instead of lighting an extra candle, so she could light a little bit of oil or she could make the candle a little bit bigger. Okay, so from over here we could learn from here that we need to be careful not to decrease from the quantitative amount of shemen or the length of our candles that we regularly light with, right? Which means if every single week, we use the same type, we buy the pack in advance, and it's big candles. If we use candles, or it's a lot of oil, which we're going to learn about the oil as we continue, of course, a lot more. You never want to decrease the amount that you use. You always want to increase. All right. So that's the basic idea over here that we're talking about. However, nowadays, the truth of the matter is that we do have electricity. And the candles are really primarily coming to add in honor of Shabbos, right? So in that scenario, some say you don't need to be stringent if you're going to add, or even if you're going to subtract, decrease the amount, the quantity of oil or the length of the candles that you use, if it will be lit until the completion of the Suda anyways. As long as, so from over here we see actually something very insightful, this idea of that it should light until the completion of the Shabbos meal, which is something that is interesting. It's really our first time coming across this idea. But the idea is, if you do a little bit less, it's not a big deal. This is talking about an obvious, recognizable difference that there's a decrease of oil or the length of the candle. That would be a problem. It's an obvious decrease. Right? Nowadays we obviously don't have this reason of the shalom bayis and specifically the aspect of kadesh lo yikashel be'itzu be'evan, that we light the Shabbos candle so that no one will trip and it will be a lack of harmony in the house because we have the electricity over here. So therefore that doesn't apply over there. If a woman doesn't have enough oil, it's better that she should light less candles or less, let's say she usually lights five. Better that she should light less, so three or four, and it will remain lit until the end of the meal, than having more candles that will get extinguished. If she wants to change the amount of that she lights, saying, let's say she usually lights five. She wants to go down, she needs to do Hataris Nadarim. Halachically, she needs to undo her vows that she made. It's considered like a vow. Any questions, comments on what we just learned?
Nope.
Okay. So with this, we successfully complete the Piskei Teshuvos, and now we are going to do the Oz V'Hadar Mishnah Berurah, and we are going to complete this today. Let's see how much more time we have. This Oz V'Hadar Mishnah Berurah. I don't think we started this at all. We were talking about exactly Shabbos. What's this? Oh, we were talking about over here on why we light. And we said one of the reasons is it's only Shabbos. It's a pleasure for Shabbos. Regarding this, the Medrash Tanchuma says, Yordi Gehenim nidoinim bechashecha. People go to Gehenim, they get judged with darkness. David, you want to say something?
No, sorry.
Okay.
Sure, I'll put them in.
People who go to Gehenna, get judged in darkness. And therefore, light, the or, is the opposite of the judgment in Gehenna. That's why it's onik. The Shiboli Haleket in Siman Nun Tes writes, and this is a fascinating idea. Someone who eats in the dark mentally will not get satiated. And therefore, okay, welcome back. And therefore, you light a candle in order that you could be satiated. These are two fascinating explanations that very few people are aware of why lighting the Shabbos candles would potentially be Oneg Shabbos. Where's the pleasure? Explanation number one, the Medrash Tanchuma. People get judged when they go to Gehenna in darkness. The light is the opposite of that. It's pleasurable. Explanation number two, Shiboli Aleket. When you eat in the dark, you won't get satisfied. You won't get satiated. You always want a little more. Or mentally, you'll think that you want more until you see you're really full. So therefore, we put the lights on so you'll get satisfied. By the way, why do you think it's no coincidence? The fancier the restaurant you go to, the smaller the portions and the darker it's going to be, the less electricity you get. It's a great deal for the restaurants because their electric bill's less and they don't have to pay so much for the actual food. And still they charge a fortune. But this is where the idea comes from. Why do they keep the lights off? You want to keep getting more. You're not satiated. Consequently comes out, according to this reason of the Shiboli Haleket, the reason that lighting the Shabbos candle is considered an oneg is because it has to do with the eating and the drinking, which is fascinating. Lavush says the oneg is just the house being lit, house having light. That's already the oneg. You know, we said that there are basically three primary reasons why we light. Shalom bayis, peace in the house, aka so you won't trip. Oneg Shabbos, covered Shabbos. The obvious question is over here. What's the difference which reason it is? So the nafkamina would be as follows. Difference whether it's covered oneg. If it's oneg, if it's more pleasurable for you not to light the Shabbos candles, you're not obligated to do so. However, if we light the candles because of covered Shabbos, the honor of Shabbos, there's an obligation in all situations. Similarly, let's say you have a candle that was lit when it was still day. Could you use that candle going into Shabbos? We're going to learn about that case more, if I'm not mistaken. If the reason for this obligation of lighting Shabbos candles is covered Shabbos, honoring Shabbos. So now there's a full-fledged obligation. So now, so now it comes out that there's a full-fledged obligation for what? Okay, welcome back. Welcome, Shai. So we're talking about over
Okay.
here,
Thank you.
if there is a candle that was lit when it was still day, before Shabbos, you need to extinguish it to relight it. Well, if the reason for lighting Shabbos candles is covered Shabbos, honor of Shabbos, you have to extinguish and then light it. However, if the obligation is oneg Shabbos, it's a pleasure till Shabbos. Main idea is that you have light in the house. Since you already have light, you're good. We'll learn more about that case though. I think people asked this question, what is the obligation of lighting Shabbos candles? Is it a Torah obligation? Is it mederaisa? Is it midrabanan? Is it from the rabbis? So you have actually through a machloikis over here. Some say it's medivrei soifim, it's midrabanan, straight up from the rabbis. Others say it's a little bit higher, it's from the prophets. It's a chiyuv minan and aviyim. Others say it's even higher, it's a chiyuv darais, it's from the Torah. Listen to this over here. The Chasam Sofer in his Shalos and Shuvas or Chaim Simon Kuf Samaches. It's coming from a Rambam, and he basically says that midaraisa we have a mitzvah to light Shabbos candle. What's the pasuk? It's halacha l'Moshe Sinai. We have a tradition from Moshe Rabbeinu that dates back to Har Sinai. Yeshaya then came along and based it on a pasuk. The Psiktasa Zutrasa says that they had a tradition from the time of Moshe Rabbeinu to light Shabbos candles. We dealt with this. Someone brought it up. I said, we're going to get to it. Here we are. What is shalom bayis? Let's say you have someone who isn't married or someone who's divorced or someone who's a widow or a widower. Why would they need to light? Very simple. Shalom bayis doesn't just mean that there's peace in the house between spouses. Yes, the quintessential shalom bayis is peace between spouses, which is the most difficult relationship out of any relationship because you're constantly around them so much and for other reasons. However, Shalom bayis means that you yourself don't need to be in pain because you're going to be prone to stumble and to fall when it's dark. That is called shalom bayis. Shalom bayis for yourself. It's peace in the house that you don't fall. And that's what the Chassam Sofer elaborates on in his Chedushim on Shabbos Chov Gimel Amud Beis as well. Dibur Maskul Ner Beisai. It's a sugya if you can't afford everything. Sam Sofer over there says that this applies even someone who doesn't have family members around. Shalom bayis. The Ben Ish Chai is Ben Yodo Chavav on Shabbos. Might be a typo. Surprised it says Chavav. Maybe. Tibur Maskul with Tiznach. Could be over there actually. He explains Shalom bayis refers to peace in yourself. There's a harmony between one's soul, physical soul, and his spiritual self. His body and his soul. It's a harmony between the two. The next page of the Ozva Hadar Mishnah Berurah. They explain very important. We learned in Sif Aleph already. Shulchan Aruch says, yes, Zohir Lasais Ner Yafa. Be careful to make a good Ner. A good Ner over here, the explanation is this doesn't mean an actual candle. What a good Ner means over here is good oil. Don't get misled. Ner does not mean a candle. Yes, Ner typically means a candle, Neiros, Ner Chanukah. That's not what it means over here. A Ner could also mean a receptacle, which means something that could hold the oil. So when the Shulchan Aruch over here is coming along and saying that a person should make a Ner Yafa for Shabbos, a good Ner, that means good oil. That means that it's going to be clear. It will light nicely. That is a very important explanation, which many people could get misled about. And the truth of the matter is, the Mishnah Berurah doesn't even specify that idea. Pull it up right here. The opening Mishnah Berurah never explains the Shulchan Aruch what this is talking about. He goes into other things. It's an obligation. Why do we light? You get the Talmidei Chachamim when you light, and then he starts going straight to the halacha. So the Mishnah Berurah himself doesn't specify that when the Shulchan Aruch said make a ner yafe, that's referring to good oil. And this is something which is incredibly crucial to point out for opening up Hilchus Hadakas ner Shabbos, because it could be dangerous. Because a lot of people they have ideas. I'm going to start this. I'm going to start that, but they don't finish, and they never know that ner yafe is referring to oil. And the truth of the matter is going to come up, if I'm not mistaken, in some Reish Samach Daled, which is an exim and deals with the types of materials that one should light with, and types of oils and wicks and all that. So, anyways, that's an important explanation. Then the Shulchan Aruch continues, says some people have a custom, they make two wicks. Even though Me'ikar Hadin adds the Hoz V'Hadar Mishnah Berurah, even though from the letter of the law, one wick, one is enough. Why do you want two? Echa Keneged Zachar, Echa Keneged Shamar. One corresponds to the positive mitzvahs of the Torah, one corresponds to the negative mitzvahs of Shabbos. You know, there's active mitzvahs of Shabbos, that's Zachor, and then there's passive, that's the Shamar. Do a little bit of a deeper dive on this. Talk about lighting two candles. The Medrash Tanchuma relates that there are a lot of pairs on Shabbos. Good, Shnei Kivasim, two sheep. Mizmor Shir Liyoima Shabbos. Shir Shirim, Mizmor Shir Lechem Mishnah. Zachor Shamar. This is where the custom developed to light two candles. The Shar Kavanos, the Pri Yetz Chaim, right? That two candles has Kabbalistic reasons as well. It's also quoted by the Kaf HaChaim. The Hagos Rashal on the Torah says that this alludes to the two souls that a person has. He gets the Neshama Yasera, that extra soul on Shabbos. Another reason the Mata Moshe explains is that the two candles are for men and for husband and wife. Because the gematria of Ner twice is 500, which are equivalent to the limbs in men and women. The husband and wife, we have 248, they have 252, it equals 500. We already saw that idea numerous times. Oh, Zoo goes back then. Why aren't they worried? Yeah, okay. It's what to look into on that. Mitzvah, whatever. And Dalid Kosos, we're not worried about Zugos also, right? We do 4 Kosos on Pesach.
True. True.
Yeah. Yeah, Gemara handles it over there in Psachim. Kuf Tes over there, that whole area. Different answers. You could add on the amount of candles, even though it won't be recognizable that you are having 2 for Zachar and Chamar. You're allowed to add. The Ramah said. Sometimes in the Torah it's mentioned, it's very interesting. It's mentioned that Aseres Hadibros in 2 places in the Torah. We just did it, but we go back to Parshas Yisrael, right? And Parshas Veschanan that we just had. So in one place it says Zachar, and in Veschanan it says Shamar. It says Zachar and Shamar. So the Zachar is the positive mitzvah, the Shamar is the negative mitzvah, so the passive. There's also a very interesting question I'd just like to point out. A difference in the 10 commandments of specifically Shabbos, right? Shabbos, Zachar Yom Shabbos L'Kach, is in one place it says keep Shabbos because I created the world in 6 days. Keep Shishas Yamim Asa Hashem Es Hashemayim V'Yetzaret U'Bayoyim HaShviyi Shabbos Vayihi Nafash. Rest on Shabbos, Hashem says, because I created the world in 6 days, rested on the 7th. But in another place it says, because you were slaves in Egypt. So there's answers to why it's different. I just wanted to point out the question, at least get people thinking about the question, including myself. The main reason why we light Shabbos candles, said the Mishnah Berurah, it's obligatory because of Unig Shabbos. The truth of the matter is it's really both. And then the Mishnah Berurah says, and because of a hidden mitzvah, you should have a ner yafa. Look later on, it's in Reish Samach Daled. What does it say over there? You can light with any type of oil, except for certain types of oil, which you can, but most oils you could. However, as a mitzvah in a mufchar, it's preferable to light with olive oil because olive oil, it will light very nicely after the wick, more than all other oils. The Shulchan Aruch said, make a ner yafa. It's talking about olive oil. Olive oil. That's what ner yafa means. Really, you should be lighting in any room where you're going to go to, the Mishnah Berurah says, based on a Magen Avram, in order that you won't slip, you won't stumble, you won't fall. However, the main candle is going to be where you eat, and that's going to be where the bracha is going to be. Nowadays that we have electricity, we already learned we don't need to light in all these places. With this, we could explain another interesting idea. The Torah's Chaim explains says, "Harogil b'ner havoyin lo b'yim talmidul chacham." You're careful with the Ner Shabbos. You're going to have children who become Torah scholars. Explains the Torah's Chaim. You're going above and beyond the halacha. You're not just lighting where you eat. You're lighting in every single possible place where you could enter into. Next page, also the Mishnah Berurah says that it's better to have one candle that is the best. It's olive oil, rather than have more, which is going to be, for example, let's say wax candles. Why? Explains the Oz V'Hadar Mishnah Berurah. Beautiful logic over here. This halacha of having a ner yafa, a good candle, that's Medina de Gemara, according to the Torah. That is from the Gemara itself. That is from the letter of the law. However, this halacha of having two candles, that's only a mere minhag. That's a custom. It's a minhag ba'alma. It's not mentioned in the Gemara.
I mean, so based on this, can you mix and match? Can you put one oil candle and multiple wax?
Okay. That's already another question. Before that question, let's just specify though. We're talking you could have 5 candles, which are wax, versus 1 or 2, which are oil. You go with the 1 or 2.
Uh-huh.
Why?
Yeah.
The answer is because the good oil is from the Gemara. Additional candles is a custom. Custom. Right? Now, let's say you want to throw in a question and say, wait, let's say I could light the 2 candles that are oil, and I could then afford 3 that are wax, but I can't afford another one that is oil. Is it better to do the wax with the oil? I would assume, if that would be the case. Does that
Yeah,
answer
makes
the
sense.
question?
Thank you.
What?
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it sounds like you're saying one wax is, one oil is really the best. So then let's say the guy wants to add on, or lady
Yeah.
wants to add on more stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. Now on Hanukkah, that would be trickier because it might not be recognizable that now you're lighting it in. But if you have a menorah, maybe this is what to talk about over there on Hanukkah. I think we covered mixing and matching wax with oil. It was not so simple from what I remember. That's a Hanukkah shaila. I would assume Shabbos you could do it. Yeah. This is a minhag. The extra lightings over here. All right. This is this. Okay. See the last page over here. There's one interesting point we should point out over here. We learned a lot of different customs. How many candles should we light on Shabbos? How many should we have? So we saw that there were different numbers. We went from 2 to 7. Right. We went all different numbers to 10. That's Sarah said different, all different numbers. And then we saw the Lakutei Maharich. You add one for each child. This is a fascinating shita. The Bnei Yissaschar in Shabbos, Maimer Gimel and Ches. He says some of the custom to light 36 candles on Shabbos. Every single Shabbos, they light 36. Correspondent to the 36 hours that the Or Haganos remained aflame. There was this hidden light during the Sheshes Shemei, Bereshit's creation of the world, and it just stayed alight for 36 hours. Since on Ner Shabbos, you have a little bit of that Or Haganos, so therefore you light 36. This reminds me, we have 5 minutes left. This reminds me on the spot of what my great-great-grandfather writes. I just have to find the idea and then I could open it. This is he talks about this. Whoops. He talks about this or Hagana's business. 36. Let's see what keyword I could get it. Shabbos candles. All right, page 495. I'm going to show you this inside. 495. Because he has a piece on this. This is going to be a beautiful tie-in. Four. What's this? 495. Okay, I'm gonna need a little bit more. Okay, he has a piece over here. At the end of Parsha Shoftim, he has what's called the Kutim section. This is a Nachlasvi. He has random ideas at the end of the Parsha. Over here, on page Tuf Sadi Hey, he says, Tam lamashim adlikin neris below Shabbos. Why do we light Shabbos candles? Hine ikra hatam mashemuva b'gemara b'shulchan aruch hu mepnei shalom bayis. You know the main reason why we light? It's explained in the Gemara in Shulchan Aruch Shalom Bayis, peace in the house, like you learned about. Ube'ezras Hashem Yisbarach hineni litain oitam acher. With the help of Hashem, I'm going to provide another reason why we light Shabbos candles. It's amazing that we came across this. My great-great-grandfather, he's writing about exactly what we're learning about. The Isa B'Sefer Chezkuni comes along the Chezkuni. Ma shaloi nichta vayhir vayhi boiker yom hashvi. Why doesn't it say Vayihi Erev Vayihi Boker Yom Hashvi? Every single day it says, and there was night and there was day. It was day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6. Why doesn't it say it by day 7? It answers the Chezkuni Lefi Shalo Haya Bo Erev Vakula Haya Or. There was no night on Shabbos, it was complete light. It was Kula Or. The Bereshis Rabbah says in Parshas Bereshis, Rabbi Levi b'shem Rabbi Zeira Omar. Rabbi Zeira says, Lamed Vav Sha'os Shimesh Oisa Or. During the creation of the world, the light remained for 36 hours straight. There was no darkness at all. Yud Bei Shel Erev Shabbos, Yud Bei Shel El Shabbos, v'Yud Bei Shel Shabbos. You had 12 hours of light on the eve of Shabbos, Friday. 12 hours, and this is the biggest insight, the biggest chiddush, on Shabbos night, throughout the duration of the night, and then another 12 hours during Shabbos day. But in Buchach, what do we see from this Bereshis Rabbah? Mikol Zeh, and from the Chezkuni. What do we see from all this? Sha'oiso lo Shabbos haya ba'or kayom. Shabbos night had light like during the day itself, like we say by Pesach night. How could you say Hallel? It says, you tell your children during the day, why do we teach the children about the Exodus? And nice because it has the status of night, of day. The night is considered day by Lal Pesach, by the Seder night. So too over here. Shabbos is considered day, even at night. Mitzvah Shmira Shabbos. Since we keep Shabbos in order to remember the original Shabbos of the creation of the world, as we already learned about, as we already touched upon, it's in the Seres Adibros. Therefore, that's why we light candles. And we increase our candles on Shabbos night. To commemorate the fact, to recall, to remember that our Shabbos night, to recall that Shabbos night, that first Shabbos in the creation of the world, that it was completely light. Beautiful piece. We're lighting to recall the Shabbos of the creation of the world. this is where it comes from. Perhaps you don't say goodnight on Shabbos. Perhaps could come from this. Or perhaps there could be an idea of not saying goodnight. You say good Shabbos. In general, when you greet someone, you say good Shabbos to have a difference at a Shabbos. But additionally, you know, we're remembering that it was all day. We're commemorating that. That's why you say good Shabbos. You don't say goodnight. Any questions, comments on anything that we did today whatsoever?
Nope, we should try it.
All right. It's pretty straightforward today.
Wait, I think we also too that we don't you don't say like Shabbos night, you don't say tomorrow, right?
I don't know about that. Could be.
It's
Could be. All right. So we'll resume tomorrow, 9:15, and it will be completely virtual again.
all right.
Till said otherwise. Till
How's,
probably till
how's the
probably
rough wife
Thursday.
doing?
You know, you know how it is. So I think we'll be back in New York probably Thursday
After
morning.
Shabbos. Oh yeah,
Thursday morning as of now. If something changes, then I'll let you know. But I think Thursday morning I'm gonna be back. We'll be back Wednesday night, but so Thursday we'll be in person again. Okay? So
sounds good.
yeah. Okay, so
All
we'll
right.
continue tomorrow. Mitzvah Hashem. Everyone have a wonderful day.
All right, have a good
Yeah,
day.
thanks for that.